Hi guys, my name is G.P.S. and welcome back to my channel. You might be wondering why you're seeing a new video from me on a Tuesday, and that's because I have a little surprise for you guys. During the month of November and December, I'll be uploading an extra video each Tuesday. So my regular uploads of Thursday and Sunday will remain the same, but you'll get an extra video from me every Tuesday. So I hope you guys will not get tired of seeing me 3 times a week. And if you want to stay up to date on pretty much everything luxury, then make sure you are subscribed down below. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. So today we'll be doing something slightly different, something that I haven't really done on my channel before. But I asked you guys if you would be interested in seeing a video on my absolute favorite fragrances. And so many of you said yes, not to mention the fact that some of you even pointed out that it has become really difficult to buy fragrances nowadays, considering that you have to rely on just descriptions and online reviews. So I thought this would be a good time to do a video on my absolute favorite fragrances for fall winter. Fragrances that are an absolute staple in my wardrobe this time of year. And I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you guys, or even if I did, it must have been very briefly. But I did actually work in fragrance development and marketing for a little while. And while I wouldn't call myself an expert, I'm not a perfumer, I'm not a nose, I do still have a pretty good grasp of the industry. And because I have this background, I have a very hard time buying fragrances for myself, especially more expensive fragrances, because I do know the cost of developing and manufacturing a fragrance. And I have a really hard time forcing myself to drop $100+ on a bottle of fragrance, which doesn't cost nearly as much usually to produce. So you can be assured that every single one of these fragrances that I purchase myself and I repurchase time and time again are fragrances that are worth the money. There must be something about them if I'm willing to drop money on these. So these are all exceptional for one reason or another. Olfactively, they're all quite different. And if I keep looking down there, it's because I have all my fragrances set on the floor. But olfactively, they are all quite different. But there's one thing they have in common. They sort of all smell quite expensive. I think that's the best way of describing them. They're all quite powerful and confident and just honestly expensive smelling. And what I thought I would do is actually match each fragrance with my favorite candles that I have burning in my apartment, because I'm absolutely obsessed with candles. So I thought I would match each fragrance with a candle, just kind of predicting what you might like if you like the fragrance. Obviously, I didn't want to go down the route of choosing a fragrance and then choosing the candle that goes with it. I wanted to be a little bit more creative. Some of these fragrances you can buy a matching candle for, but I thought I would choose a candle from a different brand that I think you might enjoy if you like the fragrance that I'm talking about. So we'll not only be talking about fragrances, but also candles, which are not only an amazing treat for yourself, but also make an incredible gift this time of year. So if you want to find out what my favorite fragrances are, then please keep on watching. Okay, I thought I would start with this fragrance because this is one that I have talked about recently. I mentioned this in my recent 2020 favorites video, which I'll make sure to link up here. But I thought I would start with this because I couldn't make a fragrance favorites without mentioning this fragrance. This is Tom Ford's Lost Cherry, which has been my fragrance for fall winter for I think the past 2 years. I forgot to look it up, but I do think this launched in 2018 because I was still working in the fragrance industry when this launched. And this has been my choice of fragrance ever since. This is quite a unique fragrance. It's from the higher end range of Tom Ford, which I think is called the Private Blend range. Don't quote me on that, but I do think it is. And this fragrance is, as I mentioned in my previous video, this is a true head-turning fragrance. It has a strong projection, and if you're wearing this, you can be assured that you'll make an entrance. It's one of those fragrances that some people love and some people hate, but everyone wants to know about it. Every single time I wear this fragrance, I pretty much get questions about what I'm wearing. Even if people don't like it, they still want to know what it is. And so this is quite a unique fragrance. I even wear this in the summer, but I mainly pull this out during fall winter. and I'm just realizing that I haven't talked about what it actually smells like. So obviously the name is quite suggestive. It is Lost Cherry and it smells like cherries. But it's not your typical cherries, it's not the fresh cherry fruit. This is sort of the cherries that you get in cocktails, the cherries that have been sitting in, you know, a jar of syrup for a month and years and developed this sort of candy-like coating on the outside. It's really sweet, it's very syrupy, and that's kind of the first fruity sweet burst that you get when you first put this on. But the good thing about this is that this is not sweet like, let's say, a Victoria's Secret body spray would be. This is a very elegant and refined sweetness, which is beautifully balanced with bitter almond. And that note and blend of the bitter almond and the syrupy cherry sort of gives you the impression of marzipan, which I absolutely love, and it always reminds me of Christmas markets. So perhaps that's why I reach for this time of year. But it's just so beautiful. It's really warm. It's really comforting. It's just a multi-layered, complex scent that if you put on your skin, you can smell it each hour. And every single time you smell it, you'll discover a new scent or a new facet of the fragrance. It's really one of a kind. I haven't really smelled anything like this before. It is expensive, but I have to tell you, it's worth the money. As, if I want to be honest, all of these fragrances in this video do, but I'm a huge fan of this. If you like something fruity, something sweet, and something unique, you might want to check this out. Before we move on to the candle, a quick note. Some of these fragrances, well, I wouldn't necessarily call them niche. They can be a little bit more difficult to come by because they are not super mass. So I'll make sure to link every single one of them in the info box because I know that it can be difficult to find these online. After I'm done filming this video, I'll go online and try to find websites that sell these and that do have them in stock, because keeping these in stock can also be an issue. So if you cannot find these online, make sure to check out my info box because I'll have everything listed and linked there. But let's move on to the candle that I feel you would enjoy if you like Lost Cherry. And I have to just emphasize that this is not a replica. These don't smell anything alike. But each candle I feel complements the fragrance. And I feel that if you olfactively like something like Lost Cherry, you would really enjoy this candle. And my candle of choice is Diptyque Bay. This is a candle that did, or more like a scent, this is a scent that took quite a while to grow on me. And I think during the past 2 or 3 years, I've gone through, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say 20. I've gone through several of these. This is one of Diptyque's best-selling scents. They come in a bunch of different sizes. And if you go back and watch older videos of mine, you can see that I even had the gigantic size of this, the outdoor candle size of this, which I burned through in like a month or two, which was a gift from a great friend of mine. But Diptyque Bay, in case you're not familiar with this is one of Diptyque's best-selling scent. And they describe this as a black currant scent. And while you do get the berries, you don't get, again, fresh berries. You get sort of the entire bush that the berries come with. You get the sweetness of the berries, but instead of getting the juice, you get more like the plant part of it alongside with it. And then you also get fresh roses, but again, it's not a powdery old school rose. This is more like a bouquet of freshly picked and cut roses. It's just a beautiful, really, really, really expensive smelling fragrance. And if you have a chance to smell this, even if you don't recognize the name, I have a feeling you might find that you have smelled this before, because so many luxury boutiques and department stores smell like this. For example, Chrome Hearts, one of my favorite brands for ready-to-wear, they used to burn these in their stores. Now I think they moved on to burning their own candles since they have their own candle line. But before that, this is what their stores smell like. So if you've ever been to a Chrome Heart store and you wondered why they smell so good, it's because of Diptyque. And I think they have 2 fragrances in their collection right now. One of them, I have a feeling, was loosely based on this, but it's absolutely beautiful. If you are looking for your first expensive candle and you don't know where to start, or if you're buying a gift for someone that you don't know really well, I don't think you can go wrong with Bay because it's just such a universally adored fragrance. Next up, let's move on to the only budget fragrance in today's video, but this, let me tell you, does not smell like a budget fragrance at all. And this is from the Zara Emotions line, which is relatively new to the Zara fragrance portfolio. And this entire collection was developed in collaboration with Joe Malone, not the brand Joe Malone, but the person behind the brand Joe Malone, who was the original founder and owner of the brand. Now the Joe Malone brand is owned by Estee Lauder, but the person who founded the brand still works actively. She has her own brand called, I believe her current brand is called Joe Love or Joe Loves. And she has recently done this collaboration with Zara, which is phenomenal for the price. She has, I think, about 5 or 6 fragrances and candles in the line, but this has to be my favorite, and I tried every single one of them with the exception of I think Amalfi Cendré. I didn't try that one, but every other one I did try, and this was my favorite. And in case you're wondering why it's still in its box, it's not because I haven't tried it, but it's really hard filming with these fragrance bottles because they don't really look good on camera, so I kept everything in their box. But this is Ebony Wood from the Zara Emotions line, and I have the rollerball version of this. And it's just so incredibly beautiful. I mean, if you told me that this is, I don't know, $50, $60 fragrance, I would believe you, but I think it costs, less than $10. And as the name suggests, it is a woody fragrance, but it's not smoky, it's not dark, especially at the first smell. When you first put it on your skin, it actually smells quite sweet, but honestly, as time goes on, you get more of that herby, sort of milky dry down of the wood. There, I think, are some spices in here because you can definitely smell some herbiness, as I mentioned before, maybe some cloves and some cinnamon. It's a really nice fragrance that I think would appeal to a huge audience. This would work for men, for women, for anyone really. In my personal opinion, pretty much all fragrances are unisex, but this entire line sure is. And this was my absolute favorite. If you like a woody scent, but you don't like the smokiness and the burnt wood that you would get from a fragrance like Tom Ford Oud Wood, then I think you might want to give this a try. It's really beautiful. It's soft, it's gentle, but it's really interesting. I love that herbiness that is matched with the milky wood. It's just a phenomenal fragrance, and for the price, you really cannot go wrong. And if you like candles, it does also come in a candle version, which I've gone through, I want to say 2 of, but I didn't want to stick with the same line. I thought I would share with you a different candle that you might like, which is actually not from the Zara Joe Malone line, but it is actually from the Joe Malone brand, which, as I mentioned, is now owned by Estee Lauder. And it is from their newest Townhouse collection. So the candle that I think you might enjoy if you like Ebony Wood from the Zara Emotions collection is Pastel Macaroons from the Joe Malone Townhouse collection, which I think is a recent launch from Joe Malone. There really isn't that much different about these candles than the regular Joe Malone candles. I think the main difference is just the packaging. These come in this beautiful, I think this might be handmade ceramic jars. They're lovely. They look beautiful on a fireplace or on a coffee table. They also come with a nice lid. But a little story about this candle. My all-time favorite candle from Joe Malone used to be Sweet Almond Macaroon, which I think it initially launched as a temporary scent. It was part of a collection called Sunday Scents, or Sunday something, and they were inspired by the perfumer's Sunday habits. So basically on Sundays, I think her grandma used to make macaroons for her, so she was inspired to recreate that scent in the form of a candle, and it was the most beautiful scent. If you like a warm vanilla scent that smells more expensive than just your regular vanilla, you would have loved that scent. And when I was moving, I wanted to buy a couple of them for the new apartment, and I could not find them anywhere. And then I discovered this, which is the Pastel Macaroon scent. So I ordered this. I thought I would give it a try, considering that the name is quite similar. And when it arrived, I didn't even have to open the box, and as soon as I smelled this, I knew that it was the exact same scent. I think they essentially just repackaged it and they renamed it using the same scent, because that one was called Sweet Almond Macaroon, this is called Pastel Macaroons, and the description is quite different. That one they called like an almond scent with a hint of coconut, which exactly what it was. This they call, I think, an afternoon tea scent, which it has nothing to do with afternoon tea. There is no tea, there is no sugar, there is no scones or jam in this candle. This is just macaroons with almond and a hint of coconut. But regardless, this is an absolutely beautiful candle. It's warm, it's comforting, it's cocooning. If you're the kind of person who loves staying in on a rainy day, watch the rain, get a good book out and read it, and light a candle, and you want this sort of comforting, warming scent, then I think you would absolutely love this. It just, to me, it just smells like home. It honestly smells like almond, macaroons, and just a hint of coconut. But it's not a summery coconut. It's just very complementary with the almond scent. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm not sure if the sweet almond scent will ever come back from Jo Malone, but if it doesn't and they keep making this, I'll be perfectly fine with it. So if you like a soft, sort of milky and cocooning scent, I think you would really like Pastel Macaroons from Jo Malone. And last but not least, the last two fragrances, I don't actually have a full-size bottle of with me physically. But the first one is from the Hermes Hermescence collection, which is Hermes' sort of high-end fragrance line. And this fragrance I used up, I think, a small bottle of a couple of years ago. And I moved on to different things, I kind of forgot about it. But I recently was at Hermes and I was given a sample of it. And as soon as I smelled it, I knew I had to pick it up again. So next time I'm at Hermes, I'll be sure to pick up a bottle of it because it's absolutely stunning. And it is the Hermes Amber Narguilé fragrance, which, in case you've never smelled it before, it's a fragrance that has been around for quite a while at this point. And it is the most addictive fragrance. It's quite sweet, it's quite warming. It has notes of amber and sweet, sticky, roasted honey, vanilla, caramel. It's just a beautiful, indulgent, hedonistic scent. I think probably the best way of describing it would be if you imagine yourself being on vacation in Dubai or Morocco and you're out for dinner in the desert in a tent, and then after dinner you are walked over to another tent where you're presented with just an abundance of sweet, sticky cakes that are dipped in honey, and there are water pipes going on in the background. That's exactly what this scent tries to capture. It's sweet, it's sticky, but it's kind of spicy. It's an absolutely beautiful fragrance that if you have on your skin, you want to keep smelling it. It's so addictive. It's warming. It's everything you want a fragrance to be this time of year. I love this fragrance, but I have to say it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for you if you want a skin-light fragrance that just blends into the background. This is a strong, confident fragrance, which I absolutely adore. As I mentioned, it's just that sticky honey scent is just something that I love. But there is another fragrance in my arsenal that is quite similar. I would say that it's a little bit more consistent. You don't get those highs and those dips with the honey as you get it with Amber Narguilé. This is a little bit more evened out, I would say. But similar to Amber Narguilé, this fragrance has notes of honey, and it is the Roaring Redcliffe fragrance from Penhaligon's. Now, in case you're not familiar with Penhaligon's, I think they are a British fragrance house, and they have this collection called The Portraits, which each fragrance in that line is inspired by an imaginary character. Now, put the picture of the packaging of Roaring Redcliffe up here, and that pretty much sums up what the fragrance smells like. It communicates, I think, the fragrance really, really well. As I mentioned, it's quite similar to Amber Narguilé in the sense that it's quite warm, it has that honey, that sweetness to it. But compared to Amber Narguilé, it's not as sticky, and I'm not talking about the physical characteristic of the fragrance. Neither one of them are actually sticky on the skin. But in terms of the scent, it's not as roasted and it's not as sticky, but you get the same amount of sensual addiction. You get the sweetness from the honey. It has, I think, notes of rum and gingerbread, which gives you the spiciness. It's just a beautiful, charming scent, and I think you could go with either one. Amber Nargile I find doesn't last as long on the skin, but you get that deep, super sticky roasted honey. Whereas Roaring Redcliffe, you can smell all day, but you'll never get that super stickiness and then have it dip. It's just going to be a more consistent, charming scent that I would say is not as, I don't know if loud is the best word to use because neither one of these fragrances are particularly loud, but you're not going to get that huge projection and that strength of the honey that you would get from Amber Nargile. So it's completely up to you which one you choose. I love both of them equally. I like Amber Nargile for the fact that it has that really sticky sweet honey note to it that comes and goes all day long. But I really appreciate that Roaring Redcliffe has the same characteristics without fading over time. And in case you love everything that I just mentioned, I think the candle that you would absolutely adore is the Nargile candle from Diptyque, which is, honestly, it's essentially identical to Amber Nargile. If I wanted to be really specific and if I wanted to point out the very slight differences, the Nargile candle is perhaps a little bit more rich and a little bit more honey-like than Amber Nargile from Hermes, but they're very, very close. I would say this has a little bit more richness and a little bit more sweetness to it, which obviously a candle can take. I personally, if I could, I would wear this as a fragrance, but I don't think many people would like to. It has a stronger projection than the fragrances themselves, but they are really, really close. If you told me that I can only have one scent for the rest of my life, it would honestly have to be this one. I just adore it. It's just warm, it's comforting, it's spicy, it's addictive, it's rich, it's confident, it's stunning. It really is. I always have a couple of backups of this, mainly because it can be quite difficult to find. It usually goes in and out of stock, so if I can find any of these online, I'll make sure to link them in the info box for you guys. And if you're overwhelmed with all of these recommendations, then I think this might be a really good way to start. And this is it, guys. This completes today's video on my absolute favorite fragrances for fall winter. I know it can be quite challenging to just imagine what a fragrance smells like based on the description, but I hope that this was helpful for you guys and you got some good suggestions out of this video. And if you enjoyed this video, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.